Bluff City Media presents the Two Buck Sports Show. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Drew Gann and Rusty Witten. Now, let's get to the show.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to your Thursday edition of the Two Buck Sports Show, live on your lunch break. I'm your co-host checking in from East Memphis, Rusty Buckets. Got my guy, Uncle Buck, a.k.a. Drew Gann, a.k.a. Power Ranger. What's happening in North Mississippi today, sir? How are you?
I'm just mad. I mean, everything breaks. Like, if there's one thing that's true in life, just that everything breaks at some point. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, my MacBook has just decided to stop working. So I'm going live from my iPad today, trusting a wireless connection instead of my hardline connection. So who knows if it's going to hold up. I don't know what's going to happen. It's Thursday. It feels like Monday, and everything's off the rails already. How's your day?
Tell me about it, man. Like, I titled this episode on a more positive note because I came in with the intentions of being positive, and then last night happened, this morning happened, this is happening, everything's happening. And so
all of our pets' heads are falling off.
That's it, man. So we're in this. You're getting this live and raw and uncut, just like you do every Tuesday and Thursday. And so we're not going to waste any time. We're going to dive right into it. Drew has got some real versus counterfeit for us. And if you've been here for a while, you know this is our first segment on Thursdays. So let's dive in.
Yeah. So it's Thursday. Our first segment of every Thursday show is our real versus counterfeit segment, where we give a take, give an idea, and then the other person says whether that idea is real or if it's counterfeit, if it's a good idea or if it's a bunch of baloney. And we were trying to keep it positive. And so I tried to think of things that were making me happy this week. And I've looked forward to nothing more recently than the Tony Allen documentary that comes out tonight at 7 o'clock on the Memphis Grizzlies YouTube page. I've looked forward to this for 2 years. I bought tickets to 2 different Tony Allen jersey retirement games. And looked forward to this documentary for a long time. But it's a real simple task. And we're going to go about it in probably 2 different phases, I guess. And we're talking jersey retirements. We're talking Memphis Grizzlies specific. And so I'm just going to give you a name. We know that 4 jerseys are going to be in the Raptors. I'm going to give you a name, and real means their numbers should be retired by the Memphis Grizzlies, Memphis Grizzlies only. Mm-hmm. And that's real or counterfeit. You just tell me if that should happen or shouldn't happen.
I like it.
We're going to go old school first. And there's only a couple names here, really, that I think we could even have a conversation about. And it's probably more of a conversation for you because you have been a fan for longer than I have. But the first one, obviously the brother of number 33, whose jersey we saw retired already, Pau Gasol. He should have his Memphis Grizzlies number 16 retired. Real or counterfeit?
Oh, that was hard. We should say this for last. I want to say counterfeit just because he truly peaked in LA. He truly hit his stride with the Lakers and kind of really morphed more into the Pau Gasol. He was great for the Grizzlies. He was great in those early Memphis days and helping kind of develop what we have now. But I don't know that he was quite what he became for us. He was great. I mean, like him, like that was still probably the most, y'all think the Marcus Smart trade was bad. That Pau Gasol trade was awful when he got shipped out. Yes, it got us marked in return, but that was an awful trade. And it really set us back for a while before we finally were able to piece together the grit and grind Grizzlies. So Powell was very important to the Grizzlies, but in my opinion, I'm going to say counterfeit.
Yeah, so I think the argument for Powell is he was the first great player, the first superstar you had here, but it came with some caveats. Caveat being, he was kind of soft. You weren't quite sure if you could win one with him being your star player. And ultimately, he got traded to the Lakers, so it's not a good ending either. I think we kind of look back more fondly knowing that we got Mark out of it. Yeah. And, you can't hate your favorite player's brother, Yeah. And so that's one. A guy that's a couple of guys here that had multiple stints with the Memphis Grizzlies. We'll start with Shane Battier.
Yeah. Counterfeit. Again, he was fun. He was great. He was a good player. He's just a wholesome dude, but kind of nondescript. I like Shane Battier, but I'm going to say counterfeit.
Yeah, so Shane he kind of feels like the Tony Allen of that first generation where he was just the vet. He was the glue guy. He made sure you were playing the right way. Yeah, nothing, you don't look back, and I think there's maybe one or two plays that you remember Shane Battier making, but you remember the presence more than it was anything
Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
All right, last one for the former Grizzlies. Mike Miller, 2 stints as a Memphis Grizzly.
I'm going to say real. I love Mike Miller. I think 13 should hang up there. He let it fly. He was the first true sharpshooter on this team. He was kind of that vet on his second stint. He was the first true scoring threat we ever really had. And so I'm going to say real. Put 13 up in the rafters.
Was he 13 for the Grizzlies?
I thought he was 13.
Well, I mean, you can't put 13 in the rafters and put Mike Miller's name on it. Okay.
I guess that's fair. 13. Hang on.
Which takes me to the second
He was 13. I was exactly right.
Okay.
He was 13.
And both stints?
He was 33 a little bit, then he switched to 13.
Oh, see, you can't do either of those.
Yeah.
Because 33 is taken too.
Yeah. 13 will be before too much longer.
All right, that takes us seamlessly into phase 2, and that's current Grizzlies. And if anybody over here has any kind of, if we missed anybody that you think should be retired, hop in the comments, let us know. YouTube
please.
Comments are preferred, okay?
Yeah.
So if you're watching on Twitter, get to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Get in the comments there. That's where all the fun people are. King Meeks is here. Wayno's here already. And so
come argue with him.
Yeah, come argue with him. Astronomo, I'm sure, will be here in a little bit.
Momentarily.
All right. So current Memphis Grizzlies. We've got a big 3 here. I think that if everything goes well, the big 3 here will be the next jerseys retired for the Memphis Grizzlies, if everything goes well. But if we ended it right now, their careers are over after this season. Real or counterfeit, none of them deserve to go into the Ring of Honor, have their jerseys retired. If their careers ended right now, Jaren after year 7, Ja after year 6, Dez after year 5.
So Mike Conley's in the comments, and Mike is going to be retired.
I'm giving that.
That's clearly going to happen, King Meeks. It's a great one to talk about, but Mike Conley, absolutely, the 11 will never be worn again. I'm going to say real because we're just now getting to the cusp of greatness for these guys, especially Jaren. Yes, he has a DPOY under his belt, but and I hate, this is going to sound worse than I mean for it because Jaren's my favorite basketball player and it's not close. I'm on this show saying he's the best player on our team, but that's it. That's kind of all so far. Now, he's on the cusp of an all-NBA season this year. He is top 10 currently in the MVP ladder per NBA.com. And so, the writing's on the wall. God forbid that his career is over this year. You give it, you ask me this question in 5 years, Uncle Buck, and then 100% the 13 will be retired.
Yeah. Sorry. I'm going to try to get to
I want to monologue while you're doing that. And so, Ja, that one's tough because Ja's our first superstar, our first shoe deal, our first real phenom that has taken the world by storm. The grit and grind was great. It was awesome to those of us that it meant something to, those of us that were in Memphis. But these new guys are bringing in a whole new era, and a lot of it is because of Ja Morant's superstarism. But we're 2 years removed from that. Last year, he was hurt and suspended, and we saw him for 6 games. And this year, unfortunately, he's been a shell of himself based on what he said last night after the game due to season-long injury.
Yeah, we'll get to all that.
I am. But, I think that right now, Jaren is the closest. Then there's a wide margin, and then it's Ja. And then 22, they didn't retire for Rudy Gay. I don't think they'll retire for Desmond Bain.
Yeah. So for me, I would also agree that it's true that if their careers ended today with the Memphis Grizzlies, that they wouldn't get their numbers retired. And that's because, Jaren, you've got a Defensive Player of the Year. You've got 2 All-Star games, no All-NBA. Or give him All-NBA this year if you want to. 1 All-NBA. And Jaws got most improved player, rookie of the year. Desmond has been really good. You can call him the third wheel of
he's competed in the 3-point contest at the All-Star game. So he's done something All-Star weekend.
That's nothing. That's nothing at all.
He did something.
Yeah, okay. So he's done less than Kevin Hart. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah. Now that I think that ultimately if this team if I were to change the question to change it from the end of this season to the end of their current contracts, we're talking about totally different things. Because I still, in my heart, know that this team is going places with those three. This has just been a really bad 2 years in a really bad time. And given the amount of praise and respect that I hope that we are all appreciating guys like Tony Allen and Mike and Mark and Zebo, I'm going to be the guy right now that says, like, we should still be propping them up as the best historical players that this franchise has ever had to date. Not talking about the future, but like right now, we've got to really appreciate, especially Tony Allen this week.
Yeah, we'll get to that here in a minute. Like, if we're gonna hang Yuki in the Lander Center, ain't no doubt about that. King Meeks, you're absolutely right. We'll talk more.
You wouldn't be able to see it. You would have to like lower the jersey to like to half mast,
and it's got to
be able to read the letters.
Right. Also, but like you have to make it life size, right? Because you got these big ones for Mark and Zebo and TA in the forum. They need to make it like a mini jersey for Yuki, our under 6 foot brethren.
Yeah. So that's all I've got for Real versus Counterfeit. Just a little jersey retirement topic that I thought about. Again, not to be a hater or anything. Just really want to put into perspective what that core four meant to us, and also say that we haven't gotten there yet, but I do totally expect that in 15 years, we will go from 4 jerseys retired, or 3, I guess, after next Saturday, to 7 jerseys up there.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll talk about the TA documentary. We got some thoughts to talk about with that coming up. But we also got a game to digest and talk about from last night, other happenings around the Memphis Grizzlies. So why waste another minute? Yeah, so the Memphis Grizzlies played in the 5th and final of their 5-game homestand last night against Oklahoma City Thunder. I did the post-game balance that dropped this morning, talked about it a bit on the Daily Grind this morning. I kind of gave my thoughts. I've got a bunch more as I've sat and marinated on it today. But I want to concede the floor, Uncle Buck. Here's your shot, man. Tell us kind of high level what you thought about the game last night.
Well, the game kind of went how I expected it to go. It wasn't embarrassing by any means. You know, you had a third quarter that got away from you. In recent memory, it's been the second quarter that's gotten away from you. But at halftime, you were feeling good. The third quarter got away from you. But in the fourth quarter, you made a run with an all-bench unit. Or not an all-bench unit, but a unit led by Brandon Clark and Scottie Pippen Jr. that really kind of injected some life into FedEx Forum. And then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander came back in and just shut the door. And that's what superstars do, is they just shut the door when the bench or whoever else kind of leaves it slightly ajar or the opposing team makes a run. Superstars just shut the door. And that's what SGA did. Now, there's been plenty of argument, blame to go around, coaches, players. Me and Buckets obviously see both sides, but lean, towards opposite sides while seeing both sides. After a game like last night, it kind of made me put blame on a third party a little bit. And I think that Zach Kleiman has built this team up in the best way that you can for a small market team. You can the easiest way to build a small market basketball team is through the draft, because you're not getting much out of free agency, if anything, and you're not getting much out of the buyout market. And so you've got to get it through draft and trade. That's your 2 options. And he's done a really good job through the draft. But last night told me that we're just not good enough. And we've said it for 2 years now. Me and Buckets, we do these trade deadline shows, and I don't think that the trade deadline really gave us many options to make. I just think everybody was pinching pennies, the buyers and the sellers.
Mm-hmm.
And it just didn't work out, and it wasn't a good recipe for anything to work out. But the team just isn't good enough. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter is. Now, there's other things. It's a mess of a season. You know, your superstar seems moody at best, you know, totally checked out at worst. The coach doesn't do well in crunch time situations. You've dealt with injuries from stars and role players. It's just been a revolving door of who knows what all year long. But last night, I stepped back and I just like, you know, Ja was fine, but our best shot isn't good enough to beat that OKC in a 7-game series. And it's frustrating because OKC is built like the Grizzlies need to be built. Again, they're not a big market team. They're not attracting free agents. You know, they got Isaiah Hartenstein, but I guess that was a trade, wasn't it? So that's how it needs to be built. And we've just kind of stuck with you've prized your youth. I think
they
is
signed.
What we're realizing too much.
Hartenstein was a free agent. They traded for Alex Caruso.
Okay, all right. So I think what we've learned here is that when you draft something, think about it in real life. If you work hard and you invest in something early on, you see it blossom, it's so much harder to give that thing away for something else. Even if it's an upgrade, it's worth more to you than it is to anybody else. And at the time, me and you both agreed on the trade deadline show. If the reason why we didn't get Cam Johnson or John Collins Sexton is because they asked for G.G. Jackson or Vince Williams, we both said, okay, I'm not really sure we need to give that up. Both of us have kind of got a lot of egg on our face after that because Vince has not been good. Gigi's been plumb awful. And you just don't have anything dependable. You don't have enough dependable pieces.
Mm-hmm. There he is. Welcome, Master Noma. I knew you were coming, buddy. Well, I knew you were coming, buddy. And listen, man, like you were talking in the comments today, the ground this morning that, you know, about getting KD and Butler. And I wanted that fourth option. I was big on Cam Johnson, but yeah, I was going to say, Drew, I'm glad you're sitting down. Hope everybody at home sitting down. I'm going to admit that I was wrong. I was very much high on Gigi and the potential that was there. And I'm not saying he's not going to be awful. I'm not pivoting. I think Gigi is going to be a good NBA player. I really think he's going to be great. He's just got a lot of maturing and growing up to do, and it's going to be a long process. And Kleiman has done an amazing job in the draft, finding guys like Ja and getting Desmond and getting the, you know, Gigi and Vince, Jalen, Zach Edey, like done a really good job in the draft. But where I'm at, and this is hard, is like, we're going to find out what the priority of this organization is. We have clearly capped our potential. Oklahoma City has lapped us twice over, doing, like you said, very similar to what we did. They drafted all their guys. They traded for SGA before SGA was SGA, Hartenstein and Caruso, right? Those are some of their pull-ins, but everybody else is basically homegrown. We're at a point now where if we're serious about contending for a championship, that we're going to be aggressive in this offseason. We're going to get in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes. We're going to pursue Cam Johnson hard. I'm not saying like these are just like examples. Like I'm not specifically we need Kevin Durant. But if this team is serious about winning a title, we're going to have to do something this offseason as constructed as we're going. We're not heading in a good direction. We're quadrupling down on youth. Our coach is capped out. He has reached his full potential, in my opinion. He's done as good as he's going to do for this organization. But if we're serious about competing, things are going to have to be different this offseason. We're not going to be able to continue quadrupling down on youth unless Zach Kleiman's goal as a GM is to build a really good regular season team for a sustained amount of time. Because that's what we're going to be. And if fans and Kleiman is happy with being a 2 to 4 seed every year and a first or second round exit in the playoffs, then continuing on the track that we're on is the best way to do that because we're drafting good players and we're making good decisions in the second round of the draft. But if you want to take that next step, it is clear that we don't have a vet presence that we need. We don't have that guy that's going to break a clipboard, get in the face. And it's so crazy, Drew, the timing of this Tony Allen documentary doesn't help, right? Because like, you see these guys. I watched TA and Zebo on Tuesday's show, the Chris Vernon show. And like they were talking about like the accountability they had, the intensity that they had. Like TA was a guy that you had to match his energy and intensity, and they had guys around him that were willing to do that. It makes this new team look like a 4-letter S word that rhymes with loft, because we don't have that energy guy that you have to go match anymore. And if we're going to be serious about competing, we need to go find something in the trade market as best we can as a small market to make this team take that next step. Otherwise, we're going to be regular season good for a very long time.
Yeah, and I'm not, I'm not lobbying for Zach Kleiman's job by any means. Like, I think he's done a really solid job.
Great job.
But there is some lessons to be learned, and that is sometimes what you have, whereas you may love it a lot, you've got to be able to see it in real-world value terms.
Yep.
And you see it through terms of everybody else. And I just think you kind of swung and missed, and you've ran this team back for 2 years in a row. I think this team is good enough to make a run, but run is different than make a finals. I think that, and when I say that a team is capable of making a run, it means that given circumstances, you can win a series or two. They're not going to be the favorite to win 2 series and a Western Conference Finals favorite, which is what I expect. What I want out of this progression, out of this core of players. The depth is good. You've got good players, but it's just like you don't have any of them you can count on night in and night out. And so it's a topic that we have to talk about a lot in this offseason, especially if there's a first-round loss in our future, that how do you consolidate these wings to get somebody – how do you force somebody to be the fourth dude or the sixth man and not – because I truly believe that some of these 10-man lineups you guys complain about, it's because not any of the 4 dudes that are running out there give you the same thing every night.
Yeah.
And so you've got to get that at some place, and you've just – the team, everybody, the coaching, the front office, none of it matters if John Morant's head's not in it anyways.
I mean, agreed. And, we've got known Grizzlies front office mole here, Astronomo, because he knows that we didn't call about any of these players, apparently, even though Kleiman said that we called, and nobody we called about got moved. That's the only attention I'm giving that. Yes, like, I agree. Like,
he's got sources, though. Jeez.
I mean, apparently. His source, trust me, bro. Like, yeah, like we're at a very pivotal crossroads is where we're at. Like we're going to look back in 5 or 10 years, much like we look back at the Tony Allen pickup, at the Zebo trade, at the Powell and Mark Gasol trade, drafting Mike Conley, and say those were catalyst moments for the grit and grind era. That's what took us over the hump and took a team that is best known for getting swept in the Western Conference Finals and made them like our standard and like more important to the city than a lot of things, right? This season, this 24-25, heading into the 25-26 NBA seasons, we're going to look back and say Zach Kleiman stuck to his guns in his youth, and we were a really good regular season team, built for a run, made some runs here and there. Or we're going to say this was the moment that Kleiman said, you know what? Good is not good enough. What do we need to do to be great? Is that moving on from Taylor Jenkins? Is that moving on from one of your big 3? I'm not proponing for that. These are options that are out there.
Right.
Jaren's going to re-sign. John Dad's going to be Grizz for life. But is this an off-season we have a conversation where we clearly, like maybe one of those like Dez or somebody is moved? I don't know. But we're going to look back and say this was the moment where we showed our true colors and what we're about. I hope this is the moment where we say, all right, we're good, but how do we become great? And we consolidate those wings, like you said, where we take, maybe it's Gigi and Vance, or maybe it's Santi, Gigi, and somebody else. So we go after a big name guy to make us a complete team, that we can go get some of these players that are going to make us better, get us a 4th option, or get us a voice that's that guy that's like, you know what, things aren't going well. Screw it. I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. Because like that's what you get with Tony Allen. And that's what you got with Zebo. And that's what you've got in Brandon Clark. That's what you've got in Jaren. But we don't have that one dude that's going to be like that bucket. like that killer. We just don't like. We got a bunch of guys who are good, but we don't have any killers.
Well, we had one, and this is going to be my last criticism of Ja, was that we had that guy, and he's just not here with us right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, let's talk about the comments that he made last night, because initially after a loss, I probably took it a little harder and got more offended by it than, you know, I probably should have. But last night after a loss, you get beat at home to continue the losing streak, take it to 4 games. Ja Morant misses the previous 2 games for a bruised shoulder. And then last night he gives it a go, doesn't play particularly well, and then comes to the media and says, I probably shouldn't have even played. And that rubbed me the wrong way altogether as soon as I read it. And with a little perspective, you know, I may have cooled down a little bit. But to me, it sounded like just sour grapes. Like, it's just, excuse me.
Excuses. That's what
Like,
Wayno. I had it up a minute ago. That's what Wayno said.
It's just excuses. You're telling me that, you know, everybody's banged up, bruised, everything. You just played your 60th game or 63rd game of the season, something like that. And everybody's banged up and bruised. And, you know, you just got to be able to get through it, deal with it, and play and not make it an excuse. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're hurt, that's fine. Like, he's not trying to make an all-NBA team. He's not going to get to the 65-game mark. He's not got a contract extension coming up anytime soon. Mm-hmm. Like, just, if you're hurt, you know, put your sling on and sit down. Mm-hmm. But don't play poorly and then blame it on your shoulder and make it sound like you were forced into playing because the Twitter mob was after you, or because, I don't know, maybe the front office or all these people that's feeling heat after a 3-game losing streak is on you. Like, your decision's your own. You obviously make your decisions yourself. So when you make your decision, if it doesn't work out, don't say, I shouldn't have played at all.
Yeah. And that's kind of, I'm with Wayno here too. He's been banged up all season. What's he talking about? He doesn't make that comment if we win last night. And I agree with that. It felt very much like excuses. Like, everybody's hurt at this point of the year. Everybody's banged up. It's who can bow up and play through it. Like, who's the guy that's going to be able to be and work through that. And, like, again, if he's hurt, if it's truly more, because if a contusion is a bruise, and if it's more than a contusion, then be hurt and watch. But don't go out there and then lay an egg and then come out and say, well, you know, it's because I'm hurt. That Will Levis did that with the Titans and threw his coach under the bus. Like, we see it happen, and it never goes well. And so if you hurt, like, stay out. But if you ain't, show up.
You know, I thought Ja played really hard last night. The shot wasn't falling, and that's he's obviously in a slump shooting threes, like a historic slump.
Yeah.
But I thought he hustled hard, especially on defense.
Well.
Getting over and under screens. Like, he really worked his tail off, and he continues to make free throws. And if this is still a bruise on his right shoulder, I mean, you've made 40 straight free throws, and I know that free throws are not physical tasks, but you're right-handed, you're shooting free throws, and you're playing really hard defense. It didn't seem like it bothered him too much.
Yeah. I agree.
I'm no doctor, and I'm not here to pile on by any means.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk immediately day after game, you talk about the things that were done and said at the game last night. This is what I'm kind of left with to talk about today.
I agreed, man. Like, again, like Wayno said, I don't know that we make that comment after a win. But I don't know, or you do make it to not that way.
To pump yourself up. Like, I probably shouldn't even play tonight, but I did go out and drop 40 with a bump shoulder. You know,
it's all about how it's all about how he phrased it, and he did not phrase it in a winning way last night for sure. But listen, Ja is what it is. Like, you know, whatever's going on between his ears is the biggest problem. People have been asking me on Twitter just constantly, like, is this a long-term issue? Is this going to be something? And, like, honestly, yeah, as long as it's between his ears, it's going to be a long-term issue. Like, that's the biggest thing. Yes, he's got shoulder stuff going on. And when you dislocate your hip, it's not going to be 100% until way later. Like, it's going to take longer than when you have, like, his hip subluxation that he had earlier in the year. Like, the wild injuries he's had, it takes a while to heal. But until he gets wrapped between his ears, none of that's going to matter. That's what's going to take the longest time, is getting him back to where he, like, there's two people that need to let Ja be Ja, and that's Taylor Jenkins and that's Ja Morant. Those two have to be the ones that let Ja be Ja.
Yeah, one more thing about the game, too, is that, I came on here and I talked about the offense and how we needed to just scrap the offense because it wasn't benefiting Ja Morant. We've not run this offense, the communist offense, as I call it. Didn't really run it last night. Hadn't run it a while since Ja Morant's been out. And the offensive numbers have been off. We haven't not been able to make open shot, make any threes. And that was one thing that we had kind of corrected this season, was our 3-point percentage was about middle of the pack, which is about 15 higher than what it normally is.
Mm-hmm.
And it just seemed like you had more open shots. And so I don't know, there's this kind of yin and yang and a correction and then overcorrection. And I don't know. It's just not working right now. But nothing is more concerning than what's done on the defensive end, though.
Well, go get to that 1 second. Shout out Parker VB. Parker VB 901 said, put this on Twitter last night, and I talked about it in my post-game bounce, but the Grizzlies are 3-8 since the trade deadline, and in those games, they are shooting just over 31% from three. That's good for second worst in the NBA. Prior to that, they were shooting 38% from three, good for fifth in the NBA. So when shots go in, teams are better. But you want to talk about,
the only thing you can contribute that to then.
Mm-hmm.
We missed Jake LaRavia.
The worst record since the NBA trade deadline are the Memphis Grizzlies at 3-8. There's 25th. The worst is the 76ers, then the Hornets, Bulls, Jazz, Wizards, and then your Memphis Grizzlies. We are tied with the Washington Wizards being 3-8 since the trade deadline. And Drew, you bring up defensive effort. I'm glad you did, because I ran a poll early this week on my Twitter page at buckets_BCM just to see what the villagers at large thought was the reason for our slide. And thank you there's roughly 100 people that participated by voting, commenting, DMing. Thank y'all for participating in that. Overarching 49% picked defensive effort as the reason that we're sliding right now. Followed at 32nd, which is 32%, was coaching incompetence, which can correlate between the two. Restricted big 3 minutes, so playing 30th. Our starters are the 30th ranked team in the NBA for starter minutes. Came in 16%, and then the new offense sputtering was 3%. So the people at large agree. Defensive effort is the main reason that we are sliding in the standings, and a lot of that can be contributed to Ja Morant, to Taylor Jenkins, to the team at large. There's clearly a lot of cracks in the foundation here. You got Santi speaking out. You got Dez and Ja and everybody in the locker room just being kind of ho-hum. We've got to be better. No real answer. You got Taylor Jenkins saying, lost. I don't know where our defense went. The people agree. Defensive effort is the number one reason that we're in this slump.
So, the Grizzlies, and I wish I could pull it up off, easily. They're different periods of the season, but we all know that to start the season, we'll call it All-Star break. We were all kind of in agreement. I mean, we all remember, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, that the Grizzlies were like top 5 to 6 team in opponent scoring, like in just defensive metrics.
Yep.
Right now, they are 25th in the NBA, giving up 117 points per game. They've fallen from top 5 to 25th. In their last few games, they've given up 120, 132, 130, a respectable 114 against the Knicks, 148 against the Suns, 129, 127, 128, 125. I mean, my goodness, it's just like defense is effort. Defense is effort. I don't care. There is scheme to it, but if you want to make the case that Jaren Jackson Jr. deserves to be Defensive Player of the Year, he will never, ever get nor deserve Defensive Player of the Year if your team defense is 25th in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
It's disgusting.
Well, it shows to me that how much he truly hides how bad some of these other defenders are, because when he's on the court, I saw this earlier. I'll find the exact stat. When he's on the court, we are significantly better defensively with him on the court. Yes, we're giving up a ton of points and that sort of thing. A lot of that's just free agent or free safety defense that we tend to run with him. but we're significantly better with him on the court. So where that boils down to is like a lot of guys just aren't giving the effort on defense that we need. And again, it's so timely that this Tony Allen document, if I'm Taylor Jenkins, like tonight, if they haven't already done this, like tonight, before we play at Dallas tomorrow night, I'm locking everybody in an office in FedEx Forum. We're all having popcorn and beer, and we're watching the Tony Allen documentary on repeat at least twice to see what kind of, like, what it looks like when you choose to be like, look, Tony knew he wasn't the best scorer and he wasn't the biggest guy, but he knew the one way he could influence the game was defense. And so you ask him about it, and he locked in on defense. And he said, I'm going to be that guy. And he then now, after he retires, you've got KD and Clay and Steph and Russ and Doc Rivers and Kobe before he passed away talking about Tony Allen, this guy. He averaged 9 points in his career. And you've got guys talking about him in a legendary way and his numbers going in the rafters because he was a defender. You have to choose. You have to make that choice. And nobody is making that choice outside of Jaren when he's on the court.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with you. Tony Allen, it was probably simpler to make that decision because that was literally the only thing he could have done.
Exactly.
And it's just, I don't ever like getting into like the player entitlement thing, but that's something that's happened since Tony Allen too, is that players are allowed to rest. They are held to a lesser standard when it comes to buy-in in a game-to-game basis. You know, you're allowed to maintenance yourself, to prepare for playoffs by pacing yourself. And what you've lost in this new era of player empowerment, and the players deserve every single thing they've ever gotten, earned, bargained for, period. I mean, they are the ones that play the games. You know, they make it entertaining, and they do entertain us very well. But one of the byproducts is the fact that there is more sitting, there is more coasting, there is all this stuff. And unfortunately, our superstar has kind of grown up in this league. And so we are kind of seeing some PTO, some foot off the gas. You're seeing a picking and choosing of when you're going to be that guy. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I miss the days where you had the Tony Allens, to where when the Grizzlies were missing 7 guys in a game against Cleveland, and LeBron James, they started, their high scores were Tony Allen, Lance Stevenson, and JaMychal Green. They went with 8 folks to Cleveland and beat LeBron. But they were just
beat him to sleep.
Today, you just don't see that. You don't see players that's like, it's like, okay, schedule loss, and I'm good with that. I'm good with a schedule loss. Like,
yeah, man, it's a whole different NBA. And like, even Drew, like right now, you know, kind of coming full circle to wrap this up before we talk about our weekends. Like, even given like where we're at right now, say we make it to the playoffs, it's going to take a minimum of 8 games to get to the Western Conference Finals. That's if you sweep the first round and you sweep the second round. And right now, I don't know that I trust Ja Morant to play. Like, we haven't seen him play more than 6 games in 2 whole seasons. I don't know that I trust him in the playoffs right now until he gets his body right, until he gets his mind right. Like, that's a lot to ask for a guy who hadn't played more than 6 games in a row in 2 years. Like, what if he tries and then he breaks down in the playoffs again and we get hurt? Like, I don't know that I trust where we are right now. Like, I just – and I don't know what – there's not really a good solution, or I don't have – like, I'm not coming with a solution. Here's what we need to do to get Ja to play a minimum of 8 games in the playoffs. But I just – like, it's tempering my expectations quite a bit to where what we can actually do. Because if we have to play a 7-game series in the first – round against the Clippers or the Rockets or whoever we end up having to play, I don't know that we're going to have Ja for all 7 of them.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a legitimate question to have. And, you know, you kind of hope that the reason why he's been cautious and picking and choosing and is because he is scared he's going to get hurt in the playoffs and that he's ready to go. I mean, I'm going to be positive when it comes time. Like, we're in the 4-game losing streak. I'm down in the dumps. Okay. So are you, so don't judge me, okay?
No, absolutely.
Like, you, the audience,
we all are.
You know?
Yeah, we all. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, come playoff time, I'm going to be there, and I'm going to have a reason that we're going to win it all. Just wait and see. All we got to do is win one, and I'll be back. But yeah, there's reason to think that John's not going to be able to hold up through a round of a playoff series because a round could mean 7 games.
You know what fixes that, Drew? You know what fixes that is we go boat race Dallas on Friday night. Like that's our next shot. Like if they go boat race Dallas on Tuesday, I'm gonna be talking all kind of crazy on the show about us being back. If we go out and we have a big giant game and we beat Dallas, and then I'm going to the Cleveland and the Miami game next week. If we win both of those, we're gonna be so back. I can't wait. Like all it takes is one. Like we just need a win. The Grizz fans, we're all grumpy Grizz, as Chris Verno says. Like we're grumpy Grizzlies, and we just need a win. Like that's all I'm asking for. But that's enough. That's enough negativity for today. I'm capping it. We're done. Yeah. We're going to talk about what's coming up. I think we both have good weekends coming up. So we're going to talk about what's going to happen before we talk again.
Yeah, got big weekends, Rusty. I got some news for you. I'm going to Florida on Sunday.
I'm going to Florida. That's awesome, man.
Glad that's how the ditty goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my wife and kids are on spring break. It is one of the perks of having a wife that's a teacher. She gets breaks when kids get breaks. And so when she gets a break and the kids get a break, that means I'm asked to take a week off of work. And so we're going to go down to Kissimmee. I think that's how you say it.
Kissimmee.
It's not Kissimmee. It's Kissimmee, right?
Kissimmee.
Astronomo knows everything. Tell me, is it Kissimmee? But we're going down to Kissimmee, Florida, outside of Orlando, and staying in a Disney-themed house that's got its own pool and everything. So it's got like a Moana room and a Elsa room and all that kind of stuff. We're going with another family friend of ours who's got one more kid than we have. So 9 kids, big house, princess-themed rooms. Hopefully they'll love so much they won't leave them. So that's what we're doing. I am going to be here at least one day next week for our show. I've told my wife, like, hey, listen, I'm taking off. I'm podcasting one day, at least one day. So
yeah,
maybe 2. We'll see how.
We'll see. We love that. Y'all may get a monologue. Y'all may get a $1 show next week if I can't find another co-host for the other one. But that's okay because I'm on vacation the next week, and I ain't doing squat while I'm on vacation podcast-wise. So y'all can have it that week. But
yeah,
you
can tell the one of us that's got kids and the one that doesn't, because I'm going to a Disney-themed Airbnb, and Rusty is going on a bourbon tour in Kentucky.
Exactly, friggin' right. I'm going on a bourbon tour with Maggie, and we're going to the Louisville Slugger Museum. It's going to be amazing, and I can't wait. My phone's going to be on DND all week. I've set it up. You can set it up. Like, this is news. This is news to me. I just found this out. But you can set up your do not disturb and then allow like certain people to come through. Didn't know that. So like, I've got my brother, I got my dad, I got you, and I got Maggie. All the rest of y'all are muted until I get back in town. So just know that, first of all. Second of all, this weekend, I know how fortunate I am to be 30, almost 38 years old and still have like 3 of my 4 grandparents. And one of them, my papa, my mom's dad, turns 89 on Saturday. 89. So going down there, celebrate him and his birthday. Going to hang out in Shibuya, Mississippi. If you know where Shibuya is, please hop in the comments and let me know, because it's very few of us that are from that neck of the woods. Shibuya, Mississippi, heading there this weekend. Can't wait to get away. There's no Wi-Fi. It's quiet. It's peaceful. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's our old family farm, and I'm excited to get away for a couple days and do nothing.
Yeah, so King Meeks wants to win, even if he's got to play old PP. I got to tell you, old Piss beat the piss out of the Tennessee Volunteers last night.
Oh, God. King Meeks is your fault. It's your fault.
Woo!
Yeah, well, Mississippi State got a win last night. Beat the Mustard Buzzards in baseball. Back. We're so back. But that's all our show for today. We ain't talking about all that mess. So we're ending on a positive note, being friends. Thanks for being here, King Meeks, Wayno, even Astronomo, who blows up our comments. Thank you, man. Like the way you stand 10 toes down on your opinions, like, is commendable for sure, even if they're half-brained.
Right. Astronomo is that guy that just keeps yelling and never listening. Like, we have interacted with him a lot, like in the comments, and it's like never one time has he responded to anything we say. He just topping.
I mean, that's it. Like we like he says it's a debate, and we try and debate, and he's just yelling about other topics. It's like man yells at son. Like, well, we love you. Thanks for being here, Astronomo. Thanks for hanging with us. Go be a friend to somebody who needs a friend. And remember, there are no refunds for what you hear on the $2 Sports Show.
That's right, because with the $2, you always get what you pay for. Go Rams!
Go Grizz! See y'all.
Thank you for listening to the $2 Sports Show. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. For comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports, head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co and find out how you can become an insider. We will see you back here next time.